Okay, so we're holding in Parak Mem Aleph, Pasuk Chaf Hey. Okay, so Vayomer Yosef el Paroi Chaloim Paroi Echad Hu S10 Elohim Oseh Yegid Lefaroi. So I want to review something that we discussed in the beginning of the Parsha, which is that the pasuk indicates that the kernel, the essence of Yosef's chiddush, of his interpretation, is that the dreams are one, which, besides for seeming to be irrelevant to the core interpretation, also in fact seems to be obvious. It seems very clear that the dreams are related, at least, right? The same idea. So there's that problem. And also, the other thing is, the other chiddush that Yosef says in his opening statement is that what Elohim is doing, he's telling Paroi, which also seems to be completely obvious. Yeah, there's a dream about the future, right? So what is this pasuk? What is the point of saying the dream of Paroi is one, and what God is doing is telling Paroi? How does that tell us anything? So the truth is a major chiddush here, that Yosef takes the two dreams and makes them into one. And that's because, and this is a review of a lot of things we discussed, there's a major difference between the dreams. The first dream, besides for a lot of differences, but we'll focus on the main one, and they all relate to this. In the first dream, Paroi said, as he described it, he said he never saw such bad-looking paras, right? Mm-hmm. And the second dream, he wasn't shocked. And the difference is that the second dream involved the Ruach Kodem, which can wreak havoc to Mitzrayim, as it did. And that's, of course, foreshadowing that the Ruach Kodem is going to bring the Arba and going to split the Yam Suf, right? Mm-hmm. Did it bring the Arba? Did I make that up? Yeah, Vashem Nia Ruach Kodem, right? Right, Ruach Yam took them. Okay, so of course these dreams are very, very clearly have a message of something, of Safa and Rav. But the problem with the dreams is, and we showed this earlier in the parak, is that was Paroi's central problem, is that he didn't know how to square these two dreams. One suggests something rotten within the state of Mitzrayim, which didn't make sense to Paroi. And the other one suggests that there's something external, an external shock, right? That's going to come from Hashem, which actually Paroi can understand that. So which one is it? So Yosef came and was masber to Paroi that the intervention from Hashem, which is in the second dream, the Ruach, is actually Yosef, who's going to speak for Elohim and tell Paroi. Which is why Paroi realizes that Yosef is the man that has the Ruach. Because Yosef's interpretation to Paroi is the following. He's saying both dreams are the same. The second dream has a Ruach. The Ruach is Hashem communicating, not Hashem going to destroy Mitzrayim, Hashem communicating with Mitzrayim through me
to tell you what he's going to do.
To tell you what he's going to do, and therefore make it not happen, whatever, therefore solve the problem.
Yeah,
right?
But there's also the other side of this, is that one of them's in Mitzrayim, one of them's outside Mitzrayim. The answer is that the outside Mitzrayim is also in Mitzrayim. It's both the same.
Why? No.
The true answer is that whatever happens, that Mitzrayim has good and bad also. It's not.
What do you mean?
It's not only external things can come in that are bad, but inside Mitzrayim is always good. That's not actually true.
Right. So so that's what the first dream indicates. That's the first dream indicates. The first dream indicates that there's evil in Mitzrayim and Paroi doesn't know where that's from. Fine. That's okay. But that's what it says in the first dream.
The Ruach Chadim that causes the grain to be
Shtufos, right?
Right, so it knocks out, makes it lose all its nutritional value for humans. That's the same thing that brings the the sickly lean cattle because it's not, because what's outside and inside is the same. It's not that it comes outside from outside, but Hashem is from Kim is from outside, but inside Mitzrayim is fine. No, inside Mitzrayim is also from Hashem.
Right. Well, I don't understand your point. You're saying
saying that the one thing is saying that the Ruach Elokim that causes Shtufas Kadim is the same thing that causes the lean count.
So you're saying for an echad, for a monotheist, it's all the same thing. Is that what you're saying? Aha. Yeah, I mean, I think I said al derech tzachas, but I think there's an oimik to this. Chaloim pare echad hu. Just that statement? No, it's just a way of saying. I'm not sure if you think the same thing. I'm thinking that like pare dreams, right? And ba chaloim b'roiv z'dorim. But at the root, it's echad. That's his point. All the chaloim pare, which is like the hepech of echad, is ultimately all echad, right? That's a kavart here. But I understand what you're saying. There's still a difference between the nature of the dreams. That the second dream talks about a ruach, and a ruach from Hashem, and the first one doesn't. So Yosef,
saying the ruach from Hashem that causes all the bad things, not the one that tells me that it's going to be good.
Oh, so you're saying you have a kasha on my pshat? Yes. Okay, one second. Right. So
kasha on my pshat is maybe that the bad things are from inside Mitzrayim and outside Mitzrayim. It's all okay.
Okay, one second. No, okay, we're asking, how could we say that Yosef is telling him he's the ruach? He's the ruach that's bearing. No, but he's the ruach that's bearing this news.
It's true, but it's Shtufas Kadim. He's not saying ruach Elokim.
Right.
He's saying Shtufas Kadim.
Right.
That comes from the ruach.
Yeah, but the message. It's a message. The dream indicates. You want to know what the piston of the dream is? There's going to be a person bearing the ruach, a person ishash ruach boy, who's going to come to you. No, he's going to tell you about the Shtufas Kadim. So the piston the piston of the dream is that God is speaking to you. That is the piston, and the piston is not that you had a dream which indicates something. You had a dream that indicates that God is speaking to you and telling you that there's going to be a rav. And look, it's coming true by me, Yosef, who's the Ishash Ruach Elokim by.
Shtufas Kadim doesn't mean
telling you that there's going to be a rav.
News of Shtufas from the Kadim. It means Kadim causes Shtufas Kadim.
Okay, I don't know. Why you would not be a good dream interpreter if you can't make that small little leap there. That Shtufas Kadim means there's going to be a Ruach Kadim, Ruach Hashem, that's going to announce to you that there's going to be a Shiddafain. That's not a problem. No, it's not a problem.
So because you already have to tell Parai that there's such thing as evil from in Mitzrayim anyway.
No, he doesn't.
Yes, he does.
Yosef may or may not have to explain that to him. One second. Why? No.
Where the Shtufas Kadim...
Yosef doesn't have to explain that to him. Parai exclaimed that this whole thing was a shock to him because right. That doesn't mean that the dream interpreter's job is to answer that kasha. That's something else. Different discussion.
But
the dream interpreter's job is to make sense of the dreams. What is the message of the dreams?
The dream interpreter is then telling him that the Shtufas Kadim means that Elokim is telling you that there's going to be Shiddafain from inside Mitzrayim, and you're even more shocked now. Yeah. So you have no answers to your questions, and you won't.
What?
Why does he believe him?
No. He made sense of the two dreams.
Paya doesn't believe in this.
I don't know. I'm not sure what your question is.
Okay.
I'm not sure the problem is. I mean, I don't really know what the problem is. I don't think Yosef. I was never asserting now that Yosef is responding to Para's problem of where the rock come from. That wasn't my point. Did Yosef teach him Kehalas? I think we discussed this. That Yosef did tell him the whole Kehalas thing, that along with Tev comes Ra, right? I think we assumed that. Now, where did we assume that? Why? Where did Yosef tell him that?
Here.
Why here?
Because here he's saying that the thing that you see in Mitzrayim that is internal, and the thing that comes from that you think is as from outside and not really inherent to Mitzrayim, are really one. That's where it comes from.
Okay, so you mean you taught him Hashem Echad. Okay, so you taught him Hashem Echad, and if you know Hashem Echad, then you know that Taiv and Rag are two manifestations of the similar thing. Okay, fine. Okay, good.
Is not above.
Okay, good, fine. Okay, fine. Very good, very nice. Now, how does that explain the other problem, the other contradiction, the contradiction between the dreams? And one is about Ruach HaKadim, and one is about. Oh, you're saying there's no contradiction anymore?
There's no contradiction anymore. It's all from Hashem.
No, I don't think so.
All right, because it's not really external.
Right.
He thinks of the Ruach Kadim as being external, but it's not.
Oh, that's what you're saying. It's not really external. I mean, the whole idea that something external and internal is a pagan dichotomy. Yeah. That's your tiny. Okay, I hear. Fine. I have to think about that. Okay. So, and then we said another thing, which is mechazik this. Yosef's footprints or fingerprints are all over the first dream. which has Sheva Paris, and the Medrash says Ben Paras Yosef, that are Yefais Mara Ubias Basar, as Yosef was Yefei Mara. And, right? And Vatirena Ba'achu Yosef is Roya as Echav Batzai. That's Yosef's all of the first dream, and Chumash the Yosef is in the second dream too. Because he's the one that speaks with the Ruach Hashem. The Kadam is the Ruach Hashem. Okay? So that's what Yosef told him. Chaloim pari echadu. It's one and the same dream. God is very active in the second dream, not the first dream. The answer is he's active in the remez of Hashem being active in the second dream is Hashem is being active in sending you the message. The message is that there is a message. That's the symbolism is that there's a message. Okay, which I think even according to what you're saying, that it's not a contradiction from Miyachid's perspective, which I think you're right. But still he has to explain what's the additional point of the Ruach in the second dream over the first dream. Right?
And why not have just one dream?
Yeah, okay, well then he addresses that in another way. He says that's because it's a rush. Okay, so we'll have to get to that. We're not going to talk about that now. Okay, now I want to talk about something which we realized, I think it was at the end of last year, which is that, okay, so we have in Sefer Dvarim, the Torah tells us what's the difference between Eretz K'naan and Eretz Mitzrayim. That Eretz Mitzrayim has a river, and Eretz K'naan depends on the heavens, and therefore, if you merit it, it will rain, if not, not. Which, as the Ramban and the Minhag explain, Mitzrayim's Parnasa is guaranteed, meaning Hashem created the land, they put the river, they put the water there, such that they'll always have food, no matter what they do, and therefore it's not the land that's conducive for Avos Hashem and Yos Hashem, because a land which is the topography of the land is such that you may or may not get rain, allows for this mechanism, this feedback of Ahim Shemar Tishma. That's what it says in Zekiv, and of course this idea that Mitzrayim is the place that's protected from Rav is manifested, borne out by the fact that when there's a Rav early in Bereshit, they go down to Mitzrayim. And then when there's a Rav, the last time, Bereshit is also good at Mitzrayim. But you stop right here and you say, wait a second. Mitzrayim also could have been devastated, decimated by a Rav. Right? So then let's say the Rav, look, you see Mitzrayim could have a Rav. So why do we say Mitzrayim is not like, let's say ask that question. Why do we say Mitzrayim is not like the land of Canaan? Mitzrayim also could have a Rav. Okay? So, now, again, like you say, well, Mitzrayim could have had a Rav, but Lamaisa didn't. Mm-hmm. And more than that, why didn't it? Because it had a Sava. Mm-hmm. So if they say, look, okay, reading Sefer Bereshit, Mitzrayim is Mitzrayim a dangerous place economically? Well, even at the time they had a Rav, it was preceded by a 7-year bumper crop. But, of course, only because Yosef intervened. So it's a little bit like in between. On the one hand, Mitzrayim has what it takes to survive a Rav. On the other hand, only because Yosef managed it and made sure they saved up, right? Mm-hmm. So just have to see the theme of it, okay?
Also true that the Rav comes very infrequently.
Right, exactly. So that's a key point. Of course, the Rav comes infrequently. So now, but I think the point is like this. The point is, so let's say, I think the way to understand that's a key point. The Rav comes infrequently. So is Mitzrayim like Canaan or not? On the one hand, Mitzrayim's not like Canaan, it's not shaykh to Rav. On the other hand, here it is shaykh to Rav, right? So the point is, I think, as follows, that let's say Yosef, this story, we have to understand the story in Parashat Miketz as Yosef, let's say Yosef would have managed the story differently and said, okay, Rav and Mitzrayim, great. Finally, we're going to be able to talk about and focus on the fact that there could be Rav and Mitzrayim. Then Mitzrayim would be like Canaan. Right? So in other words, it's not about frequency, it's more about the fact that there's an opportunity here. Look at it that way. Like, okay, the story could have gone till now. There was a major difference between the land of Canaan and the land of Mitzrayim. And that's why he goes down to Mitzrayim. He says, no, it's not going to be Mitzrayim. He goes back to Canaan because there was a Rav in the land of Canaan. He wanted a Rav. He wanted a place that's susceptible to Rav. But now that there's another tzaddik who's active in Mitzrayim once again, right? Like Avram was and Yitzchak almost was and Yaakov. So now Yaakov's going to be, and so now maybe he's going to deal with it in another way. He's going to lead Mitzrayim in the path of Canaan. right? So that could have happened. So now, and more than that, we spoke, what?
He didn't do that.
Right, now we spoke about the fact that, according to Yeshaya, he should have done that. Okay, so let's look at Yeshaya again. Yeshaya Perek Chav Zayin, let's start from Pasuk Hey. Yeshaya Perek Chav Zayin, Pasuk Hey, talks about the Shalom, the true Shalom, which is the Ma'oz of Hashem, the strength of Hashem, that's the true Shalom. And that's contrasted with the Ma'oz in Mitzrayim, which is the faux Shalom, or they think it's Shalom, but it's not Shalom, right? And then in Pasuk Vav, it talks about Yaakov would come and be tzitz uparach, and fill the earth with tnuva. We spoke about this last time, that in Yeshaya it talks about nivs v'sayim, the fruit of this v'sayim is shalom, shalom l'arach v'lakarv. So we're all looking for shalom. Yosef says shalom paroi, and then Yaakov is going to come down to time. Yosef uparach, they're going to sprout and develop, and that could have happened a different way. Meaning the coming down to Mitzrayim, right? The coming down to Mitzrayim of Yaakov could have been umolu pnei v'seibel tenuva. And it could have been based on the Shalom of Hashem. And we'll see very clear in Yeshaya that it went down to Mitzrayim, Shalom b'Shas Hashem. It's a major problem. And then, of course, it continues there in Pasuk Yud Aleph about allowing the katzir to break when it's dried up, which is what Chazal say in Babasa means let the goyim collapse and don't save them, right, when they run out of schusim. Oh, and of course, I skipped. Pasuk Ches talks about Ruchai Hakasha, the Yom Kaddim. The Yom Kaddim is Hashem's Ruach Kasha, and that's supposed to do its work. Do its work. Let it destroy things, and let the katzir dry up and break. And then in Pasuk Yud it says Loy Ambinoisu. And we're not an Ambinois. That's Neged Yosef, who was called Ein Navoin v'chacham kamocha, and in the Shai, when you Pari tells someone Ein Navoin, even though it means no one is as discerning and understanding as you, but we have to be discerning and understanding to read that. Oh, if Pari is telling someone Ein Navoin, the very next step is to say, yeah, Loy Ambinois, right? It's Shikol Sibin. Loy Ambinoisu, okay? And then Pasuk Yud Beis v'hay bayom hu yachbat Hashem mishibolos had noha nachem tzayim. Hashem will knock the grain out. The good grain that Hashem wants to collect is B'nai Yisrael. So he wants to collect you from Mitzrayim, like good grain, right? Let the grain of Mitzrayim dry up. Right? Let them come back from Mitzrayim. We don't want to be Mitzrayim. We don't want B'nai Yisrael to be Mitzrayim or to cooperate with Mitzrayim. Let Mitzrayim collapse, and then something will be very different. Right now, what exactly will be different? This is what we have to figure out. Meaning, let's say Yosef would have allowed Mitzrayim to suffer the Rav, right? Which would have made Mitzrayim equivalent to Canaan. So now that takes us back to Perek Yud Tes. Perek Yud Tes in Yeshaya, the Masa Mitzrayim. Hashem is riding on a cloud, comes down to Mitzrayim, and the Alilei Mitzrayim tremble, right? So it's Hashem against the Elilim of Mitzrayim, and Hashem is riding his cloud. Of course, he's riding his cloud. Why? Because the difference between Hashem and the Elilim Mitzrayim is that Hashem controls the Shemayim, the clouds are, and the Elilim Mitzrayim are symbolized by the river. So, okay, it's very good test, and the whole thing is about the fact that the Elilim Mitzrayim don't know anything, and the Chachmei Mitzrayim don't understand anything, and that, of course, we said is beginning of Parshas Miketz, where the Chatumim can't know anything, but Yosef does. Okay, and then it says, this is in Perek Yud Tes Pasuk Yud Ches, V'yoyim hahu yiyu chamesh or be'eretz Mitzrayim medaber sfas K'naan v'nish baz Hashem tzavakas. After this happens, after the river dries up is in Perek Yud Tes Pasuk Hey, it says explicitly the river is going to dry up. After this all comes to pass, there's going to be 5 cities in the land of Mitzrayim that speak the sfas K'naan. And Pasuk Yud Tes V'yoyim hahu yiyu mizbeach l'Hashem b'seich eretz Mitzrayim. They're going to serve Hashem. And Pasuk Chaf Aleph, v'noida Hashem leMitzrayim, v'yoda Mitzrayim es Hashem, b'yom hahu. Okay, and then the parak ends climactically, Asher bircha Hashem tzavokas leimar, baruch ami Mitzrayim. So Mitzrayim is going to be the Am of Hashem. And Yisrael is going to be the Nachlo. And in Mitzrayim is going to be people that speak the Sfas K'naan, and going to be bringing Karbanos to Hashem. So the idea that it's going to be Karbanos when the river dries up, and we let Mitzrayim collapse, Then, as the pasuk says, in pasuk Chavbeis, "V'nogav Hashem b'Mitzrayim, nogav b'Rafa b'Shavu ad Hashem." So let Mitzrayim collapse. Then Hashem will be merapeh them, and then they will return to Hashem, and then Hashem will be known to them, and they'll serve Mitzrayim. So the point is like this: and they'll serve Mitzrayim. They'll speak Sfas K'naan. Of course, the speaking Sfas K'naan we have in the whole parsha. The whole we discussed the Sfas Le'dat Yeshma, and Pari does not speak the Sfas K'naan. Pari speaks the Sfas Mitzrayim. Right?
Yes.
But what if Yosef would have allowed Mitzrayim to collapse? Then he would have hastened, basically, Mitzrayim being like Canaan. Because the whole difference between Eretz Mitzrayim and Eretz Canaan is that Mitzrayim is not susceptible to Rav. Which is why Yeshaya, when he talks about the river drying up, and the Chatum Mitzrayim not being able to know Hashem's Eitzah, and this Yeshaya Perikutes is basically a description of the beginning of Parashat Miketz without Yosef swooping in and using his Atzas Hashem and actually whispering in Paro's ear what the Atzas Hashem is. Because Paro really is not supposed to know Atzas Hashem, which means he's supposed to suffer. If he suffers, then he's Nogev Rafai, and then they'll come to know Mitzrayim, and they'll speak Sfas Canaan and serve Hashem. So Mitzrayim, the kids of Mitzrayim could have become like Canaan, right? It was up to Yosef. It was up to Yosef. Now Yosef Lamaisa did not do this. Why didn't Yosef do this? So this takes us to Yeshaya Perek Chof Tes. Or better, let's focus rather on Perek Yud. In Perek Yud, the beginning of Perek Yud talks about the bottom Seirim who do an Eitzah not from Hashem, and they go down to Mitzrayim without asking Hashem. Lo'ez b'ma'oz parei. So the ma'oz of Hashem is Shalom. Oz yachazik b'ma'ozi Shalom yasali, right? And the Shalom parei is the ma'oz parei, which is, as the pasuk is, L'boishes and L'chlima. Because you're relying on the Sarim of Tzayan. And they don't know what they're talking about. Because that's what, right? Here Yosef is trusting Parei. Meanwhile, he just indicated that he doesn't know anything. Right? As Pasuk Tes says, Amari Banim Kechoshim. That's Kichashu B'Hashem, Vayemu Loihu, right? As we discussed. Loi Avu Shmor Teres Hashem. Okay? Why is this? Look in Pasuk Yud Beis. You're trusting Oishik and Nolos. You're trusting Oishik and Nolos. Right? That means Yosef is putting his trust in Parei, which is the old problem, right? Mishenes Konarotzutz. What?
Like you did last time.
Like you did last time, right? Like Yirmiyah says, as the Medrash says, Ora Geva Sheyiftach Ba'odom, Shesam Basas Royai, right? So here is Batach Ba'ishik V'Nolas and Nishan Olav. Mitzrayim is the Mishenes HaKonarotzutz, and that's the major problem. So therefore, go on there in Pasuk Tezvav, Perek Lamed Pasuk Tezvav. Hashem says to you, you'll be saved b'shuva v'nachas, and you don't want that. You want to run away on a horse. Lo yakisus nonos. Oh, so you want to run on a horse, you're going to run away. So you want horses, right? Which of course is Mitzrayim. You want the power of Mitzrayim, right? And really you're supposed to have shuva v'nachas, but no, you trust Nolai. So this is a Shlem Pari. Yosef was in awe of Pari's might. He sees the might of Pari's power. Pari is the court of Mitzrayim. So look, give you on a Shlem Pari. That's Shalom Malchus. He trusts Oishik and Nolis. I mean, that's what I mean. We all trust Oishik and Nolis because we basically think that the Malchus matters. Right? Nothing to do about it. And just to put this together, just to review, so the trusting of the horses, this brings us to Mizmor Kuf Mem Zayin, where it says, Lo b'gvuras asas yechbots, rather, Rotz Hashem es yireav z'machad mechastoi. And there it talks about the Shalom and the Chilav Chita. The Yireim who are meyachlim l'chastoi are the ones who Hashem is Mechaya Bara'ov. Right?
It has to be a possibility.
As in Perek Lamed Gimel, up to Hilim Shekar Sus L'Shua, Hine Ein Hashem Li Re'av, La'atzil B'Masam Sh'chayisam Bara'ov. So you want to survive the Rav, don't rely on Mitzrayim, which is Oishik and Nolis, and don't rely on the power of the Susim. Take the fact that they don't know what's going on to recognize that you need Chesed Hashem, and that will survive the. Yeah, what were we saying?
Saying that the option was to make Mitzrayim like Canaan by saying, okay, see, you no longer have a Goyin Tzivas Lechem, you're no longer Batuach.
Right. But
instead, he just gave him a way out, and therefore
exactly, right. Meaning it's important that Mitzrayim should not be Batuach. And instead
Well,
Yosef.
It won't be. So what you're
Right.
saying is that it would have been advisable for him to do that. This is going to happen, and
Let's do it quickly. Right. Now, I don't know. It's very interesting. Now, I think maybe you asked this question. What happened to Avodim V'inu Oisam Abba Me'ez Shana, right? What would have happened to Avodim V'inu Oisam?
Right. I don't know.
So, first of all, it's not Shakasha because it wasn't 400 years anyways.
No.
So maybe you can Mekayim it through Yosef.
Also, you can kind of that.
Okay, does anyone say you're Mekayim it through Yosef? You understand what I'm suggesting?
Well, we started with, if it starts with Yitzchak, it starts with...
I'm just saying, Yosef wasn't Eved and Inui. Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe Yosef was supposed to stand. Geri Yazarach Beretz Le'Lahem Lavadim In Yosef is Yosef. I Abba Me'ez Shana. I don't know. So Kaish Yashibu to make other cheshbonis somehow. I don't know. But I would say also, I would say it like this: that why? I mean, we're not going into this whole thing. You know all about this. That Avodim In Yosef is because Avraham Avinu said B'Mo'eda. Similarly, this whole thing is continuing because Sfas Le'Yadati, and he says Le'Yadati es Hashem.
Yeah.
So basically, it's like, yeah, Avodim In Yosef because they're going to do the same thing. In Echanami, if Yosef wouldn't buy into the Mahalach of Parai, then you're in Eretz Yisrael, and we could bring Eretz Yisrael to Mitzrayim. Spread will be Kovish Mitzrayim and bring the idea of Eretz Yisrael to Mitzrayim, however you want to say it. But just like Avram said B'Mo'eda, Parai says Le'Yadati, and that's Le'Noida. And I just realized, just another point. I mean, it's Pasha, but it says by the Shvatim when they were talking to Yosef, "V'heim lo yada'u ki shemei Yosef." So the language barrier, the speaking Mitzrayim, is called lo yadu, like Sfas Le'Yadati and lo noida ki bo kavan. Okay, so basically, theoretically, Mitzrayim could become like Eretz Yisrael.
But that would require a tzaddik to push it in that direction.
Right, and the same way Avram, when he was promised Eretz Yisrael, said B'Mo'eda, so he said, okay, so you're not going to have Eretz Yisrael. So to Yosef, when he has this opportunity for Mitzrayim to be Eretz Yisrael, he doesn't take it.
You're going to have to be in Mitzrayim for a while.
But you have to be Mitzrayim that's not Eretz Yisrael.
Right.
Which is not like Haba, I think.
It's farthest from Eretz Yisrael.
Right. And I think I made this point last week, but I think it's Pasha. I mean, that when the Pasuk says in Yeshai, we read this in Parashat Shmos, Aboim Yashish Yaakov, Yatzitzu Farach Yisrael, the bottle place was Nuva. That's not, it sounds beautiful, but that's not exactly how it played out. That's how it was supposed to play out, because we went down, as the Shai says in Perek Lamed, we went down to Mitzrayim without asking Hashem. That means we weren't doing it with Hashem's ideas. We said, we took our cues, right? We took our cues from Mitzrayim instead of telling Mitzrayim how things are, but from Hashem's perspective. That's called going down to Mitzrayim without Hashem's Eitzah. Basically, we're doing it their way. Doing it their way is lo yadati es Hashem, sfas le'yadati eshma, and which is why if we do it their way, then it has to be done their way. And when the pasuk says abam yashiatz yotzav baruch snuva, that's a different way that it could have happened. And then Yishai continues, you should have let the ruach kasha do its thing, and then taka you'd fill the world with tnuva. Fill the world with tnuva. The burden is the same shalom l'rach v'lakarav, but Pari really doesn't deserve shalom.
So why did that one not work? Because they didn't.
Why did what not work?
The second. Because if you're going to tell to Parai, then you can't have any of this.
Yeah, exactly, right. It's all happening through Yosef, right. I want to just point one thing. I might have pointed this out in the past, but I just want to just show you some more parallels. In Tehillim Ayin Zayin, it just seems to be, and it doesn't add much to this discussion, but it just seems to be very clear that Mizmar was darshaning some of these themes of Parshas Miketz and of this battle between Mayim Alyonim and Mayim Tachtonim, the rainwater, and Mitzrayim. So this is Perek Ayin Zayin in Tehillim. So this is remembering Hashem, and it's remembering how things used to be good. Hashem used to redeem us. And the Pasuk it talks about he couldn't sleep. Nif'amti v'lo yadaber. So that's Pari woke up v'tipoim ruchai. He remembers the Shnois Elamim, and he's wondering if Hashem is going to forget forever. Hashachach hanois el, did Hashem forget forever? And he remembers that Hashem used to do ployim. What are the ployim? Hashem alikim ba'kodesh dakecha mi el godol kilohim ato ha'elos epela. Now, what does that mean? That's obviously parallels mi chamecha ba'elam Hashem mi chamecha ba'kodesh noises oisefela, right? Which is, and then of course the next pasuk alta b'zoy amecha b'dei Yaakov Yosef Sel, which means like this: Hashem is ba'kodesh. Hashem comes from the Shemayim. Mi el godol kilohim Ato Elazvel, Micha Mocha Ba'elam Hashem Mika Mocha Neder B'Kodesh. I think we spoke about this a long time ago. Neder B'Kodesh means Hashem's water comes from the Shemayim.
Right. It comes down.
Right,
Okay.
right. It comes from outside to the earth. So that's B'Kodesh, and that's what makes Hashem superior to the other gods. Other gods are not B'Kodesh, they don't come from the Shemayim. And if you see further there, it talks about Hashem in Pasuk Yud Ches, Hashem's the Koilis and the Ram and the Brokim, and then Hashem split the Yamsuf. Okay, and of course the reference is Yaakov and Yosef. So we have this Hashem is, as we saw in Yeshaya Perek Tes, Hashem comes riding on his cloud and he's superior. Why is he superior? Because he rides on a cloud. He's in the Shemayim. He's B'Kodesh Darkecha. And therefore he could split the water and he could come with his thunder and lightning. And all the Elila Mitzrayim trembled before him because none of the gods are like him, because he's the God of the heavens and they're the God of the Nile, so to speak. And that's the reference over here to Yaakov and Yosef, that this whole debate about Yosef, will he ever be redeemed from Mitzrayim, right? Yosef was forgotten by Ishkecheu. And the question, will Yosef ever get redeemed from Mitzrayim? No, yeah, of course Yosef will get redeemed. Don't worry, Hashem always redeems. Hashem doesn't forget forever. And he redeems by differentiating between him and Mitzrayim, right? But Yosef doesn't allow that to happen. Yosef does not allow that to happen by accepting a little bit of the Shalom Power. Okay, now let's on a few more psukim. Shalom, you have a kaiches for a couple of more minutes? Okay. Let me just...
Saying that because he looked for Shalom Power, he's therefore giving Power the right to claim his version.
Exactly. And the real version should have been...
you're going to have to suffer
yeah.
because you're going to have to learn how to daven to Hashem.
Right. Right. And let Hashem from the heavens, who's meaning like controls whether you're Parnasah, let him do that to Mitzrayim too.
They didn't want that. They wanted to have rain.
They wanted
to have the river so that they didn't have to worry about
it. Right.
Yeah.
That's it. Now, okay, so let's learn 2 psukim inside. Sheva, 3 psukim. We did the Pasuk Chafei, now we're going to do Pasuk Chaf Vav and Chav Zayin. Sheva paras hatovis Sheva shonim heino, v'Sheva hashibolim hatovis Sheva shonim heino, chaloim echadu. So the first thing that happens is that Yosef tells him that the 7 items in the dream refer to 7 units of time, which of course you remember that idea from the end of Parshas Vayeshev, right? 3 baskets, 3 days. 3 sarigim, very interesting. That's how Yosef interprets dreams. We spoke about that dreams have a lot to do with time, because in Kehelas it talks about the Itim, and dreams are all about that. Fine. Now, very interesting point to notice is that Yosef did not say anything about the meaning of the good cows, right? He doesn't say anything about a sava. He just says they refer to 7 years, which is again very consistent with what we have in the Parashat Vayeshev. That 3 items in a dream means 3 units of time. 7 cows means 7 years. That's it. Nothing to do with the sava. Okay. After the 7 years, something's going to happen. That's all it seems. This is going to be 7 years. Important unit of time called 7 years. That's what it seems. Now, just note that, and then we'll see the next pasuk. Chaloim echad. Now, this seems to be repeating what he said in pasuk of Hey, but I thought, and I found it, Bavram ben Rambam said this. The point is like this: pasuk of Hey means the 2 dreams are the same idea. However, they could be referring to 2 sets of 7 years. It could be 7 years and then another 7 years. Here he's saying no, it's the same 7 years. Fine.
The two dreams are the same 7 years.
Right.
Each one has 2 different sets of 7 years.
Right, but his point is, by saying Chaloim Echadu, he's saying, I don't mean it's 7 years and then another 7 years. They're both referring to the same 7 years. Right. Now again, he says nothing about the Sava, but in the next pasuk he says, V'Sheva paras harakis ha'rois ha'eles achreim, Sheva shonam heim, Sheva shonam harekas shuvas hakodim, Yiyu Sheva shnei ra'av. So, here, by the way, this pasuk, by the way, syntactically is very difficult, because it says, and the 7 cows that come up are 7 years, and the Sheva shibolim will be 7 years of hunger. The shibolim are not 7 years of hunger. Right? They maybe stand for it.
No.
They don't become that. No, you want to say they are, like you said in Sheshem Hain, they're symbolic of. Right, but you sounds like there's going to be. He's telling me there's going to be, but then it segues, so that's a problematic pasuk. But I want to focus just on this point. In Pasuk Chavav, he didn't tell him that the 7 paras tovis stand for Sheva Shnei Sava. In Pasuk Chav Zayin, he told him that the Sheva paras harakis varois stand for Sheva Shnei Ra'av. Right? Why? So the Mepharshim talk about this. The Ramban says because Mitzrayim is Kagan Hashem. The Ramban says that. The words, okay? So you'll stop hacking me when I say Mitzrayim is Kagan Hashem. You heard? The Ramban says it.
Yeah.
The Ramban says.
Kagan Hashem cares.
I know. The Ramban says since Mitzrayim is Kagan Hashem, So it's not a chiddush that there's going to be a sava. It's not a big deal. The point is that there's going to be a rav. That's a big chiddush. And
so that's a chiddush because that very rarely happens. Yeah.
Right.
It only happens.
And some add, because the whole point, what does Pari have to know? Is Pari has to know that there's going to be a rav. That's the ikar point that Pari has to know. Okay, but I think the pshat is like this. I think it goes much deeper. Really, you could read the Sheva Paras as meaning a certain amount of time is going to pass. After that time is going to pass, what's going to happen? You could have read parashas like this. Seva Paras Tavis means 7 years.
Right.
Are going to pass, and in 7 years there's going to be a rav.
Right.
Like
You don't have to say there'll be good 7 good years because Mitzrayim is always good.
Right. Comes Yosef in the next pasuk, 2 pasukim later, pasuk of Tes, and he says, "Oh, it's going to be a Sava Gadol," right? Because what Yosef did over here was that Yosef took the dreams, as we've been discussing, and Yosef's chiddush was, let's manipulate the dreams, because I'm the ruach that's supposed to manipulate the dreams, to make the dreams also be the solution for the problem, right? But that's a second level reading into the dreams. The first level reading into the dreams actually parallels Samashka, is that 7 paras tavis is 7 years. Yeah, 7 good years, naturally, like all Mitzrayim years. And after that is going to happen a rav. Now, if that's the case, then we have a major problem, because we have no solution. Comes Yosef and adds that the 7 paras tavis is Sava Gadol, and therefore now we can fix something. But that's why it's not mentioned l'daiti, because it's another layer of meaning in the dreams, which is actually, it's important to note that it's not as present, not as there on the surface, as the rav part of the dream, right? Because Yosef was, it's Yosef's innovation. What?
Yosef's innovation
to treat it as a Sava Gadol, that can solve the rav, and that's not even obvious in the dream. The dream interpretation doesn't really require that, because the Sheva Shonim could mean an amount of time. Okay, and one thing I just want to say about the Sheva, so the fact that there's food things happening in units of 7 years reminds you of the seven years of Shemitah. But also, we spoke about this psukim in Yirmiyah, where it talks about, in Parak Hey, where it talks about the people who deny Hashem, and there it says you should know Hashem, you should fear Hashem, who makes the rain. When he keeps the shvuos of the katzir, that's 7 weeks of shvuos of Sfira. So the time when Hashem controls the rain, he has the good shvuos. So there's the shvuos of Mitzrayim, and there's the shvuos of Hashem's, who actually is shomer the shvuos for us. Shvuos of the katzir is shomer for us. While from Mitzrayim, they had these other shvuos that could have ended up in disaster, maybe should have. And we will leave it at that.
Okay.